And just like that, we are back with another chapter of the universe according to Mugsy. I am Mugsy the Creator. This is chapter 33, and I'm so excited. What day is it? Oh, it's May 16th, Thursday, May 16th, 2024. Why am I so goddamn excited? Because today we are gonna we're gonna talk about a topic that I love to talk about, and everybody knows I love to talk about it, and that is the GameStop stock. And then at the end of this long discussion about the financial markets, the financial plumbing, how everything works, how I was able to see it so clearly over a sustained amount of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow your mind with some quantum mechanics and an understanding of the world that you've been existing in for this entire time in a way that you have never seen it before. And I'm probably going to blow a lot of fucking minds. Now, in order to start this conversation off, what we're going to have to do is we're going to cover a little backstory for you. Now, for some of you, this is going to lend me a lot of credibility in my ability to see financial markets in real time. For others, this is going to be a laundry list of things that you need to do your own homework on to make sure that you understand them correctly if you desire to understand financial markets. Now, I don't really give a shit whether you want to understand them or not. I do. And I'm going to explain why I am able to in the only way that I know how. Now, many people have attempted to really understand financial markets. And unless you've humbled yourself before that information, you are never going to receive it. You're never going to understand that it's all a game until you remove yourself from it and then you just look at it as such. Now, most people are unable to get to the end of the understanding the financial market loop because they find, as they begin to understand the marketplace, they find opportunities that they like for themselves in it. Places that they can hide out comfortably, appear as if they understand what is going on, and no one would be the wiser because so few people actually understand these markets. And many people do. Many people choose that life. But I honestly wanted to understand the market. I have no use for these things like money, okay? So every off ramp of understanding the market, I didn't take, and I kept driving full speed towards understanding. Now, I could have used a little more of that focus on just a little bit of money to get me through um, the turbulent times in understanding. But because my desire was pure, that's why I'm able to understand it so easily now. Now, that was a long preface to get into this, but that's going to be important as I talk for the next fucking 30 or 40 minutes about this shit. Okay, so come back to that at the beginning. Maybe listen to this again at the fucking end of this. All right. So now in 2020, the markets were going crazy, right? The markets took a massive dive because of COVID, and then there was an immediate return because of bailouts. Now, the name of the game is bailout. Bailout's the name of the game. If you want to understand the history of the last 100 years of the economic system in the Western Hemisphere, you need to understand, and by Western Hemisphere, that engulfs the entire nation. You need to understand the name of the game is bailout, right? So that immediately came back. But due to COVID, we had an interesting landscape that we had never approached before. People were handed money that was printed by the government, into their pocket, direct deposit into their accounts. And they were also told to stay at home, not go outside, not do anything. They closed churches. They closed religious institutions. They closed gyms, workout facilities. They encouraged people to not spend time with others. So people had a lot of time on their hands. And people were also being hit with subliminal messaging for gambling, 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 because gambling was in the process of being legalized in all 50 states, sports gambling. I'm sure everybody's fucking aware, because young men right now are being hit with that fucking programming on commercials, advertisements, radio, everywhere you go. Every time you pick up your fucking phone and scroll Twitter, I find that. But they're not targeting me. They're targeting people like you, because I'm not dumb enough to fall for this shit. All right, regard. I'm getting sidetracked. That's what happens when you. All right. So let's go back and focus on GameStop. It was an interesting time for me because I got 6 phone calls from ex-girlfriends and ex-girlfriends who it didn't particularly end well with. And all of them were like, hey, can you just like explain what's going on with GameStop to me? Because should I be making money here? Da 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 da. And what that was a short squeeze. There were enough people financially savvy enough at home on Reddit that they were able to engineer a short squeeze on large scale financial institutions. Now, there was a lot of hobnobbery going on at the time of COVID and 2021. Some of that was obviously shams. Now, you should go back, and it's important to listen to remember exactly who was talking about NFTs, cryptocurrencies, and SPACs in this time frame, because those things were all fantasy land. Those were opportunities in the marketplace to sell snake oil to anyone that was dumb enough. It was a perfect example of greater fools theory and practice, because there are no greater fools than the last fool caught holding the bag. And many Americans were taught this lesson because they don't understand enough about the marketplace to understand that you don't need to understand everything. That's what some people who are good with money, or not just money, just understanding society, just get naturally. All right. You don't need to understand everything. You need to hold on to a few fucking principles that keep you grounded enough to recognize snake oil when you see it. To the same end, doesn't mean you can't make a lot of money off this shit, right? Just because I choose to stay on that lane of understanding does not mean that you have to. You can get off anywhere you want. Some of the things that I'm going to say are going to be opportunities for a shit ton of people to make money. Go ahead. Do that. Spend your time doing that. Because if you do that, then you are not going to hear one goddamn thing that I have to say. But regardless, that was so fun getting those phone calls from these women. So not ETFs, SPACs. What is a SPAC? Special Acquisition Corporation. All right. Special Purpose Acquisition Corporation. That is taking a company public. Many of you understand anyone can start a business. If the business is successful, maybe you'll have the opportunity to take it public. What does that mean? That means you sell shares of your business on the public market to anyone who would like to buy them. That means your average Joe can say, I like that company, Nike. I think that they make a great product, and I am optimistic about their future outlook. I would like to participate in the potential upside that this company is going to face. How can I do that? I'm going to become an owner of that company by purchasing shares of their stock. All right. So that's how that works. Now, a special purpose acquisition company says, hey, we're going to go public. And we're just going to go public. Let's raise a shit ton of money, and then we'll figure out the business part later. we'll buy one. Or you know what? We'll get somebody with an idea to sign on right now. We'll call it worth 10 billion and we'll figure out a way to monetize it later. What do you say? Now, how could you not see that for what it was at the time? Anybody who understood public companies, and then you had CNBC and MSNBC telling you that, whoa, this is a savvy financial instrument. It's actually been around for a long time, and there are certain corporations that have used it from time to time. Well, why did we see 400 fucking million of them at a time that was unique in financial market history, where there had been a massive liquidity pump into the system, direct deposited into people's fucking bank accounts? Interesting how those two things just happen to work hand in hand together at the same time. So most of those companies failed. That was obvious. That didn't mean there wasn't an opportunity to make money, but somebody got caught holding the bag. Most likely that's going to be your mutual funds, institutional investors, fucking 401ks, union, teachers unions and shit. They always get sold to shitty financial products. They always get stuck holding the bag. And ultimately, the American public gets stuck holding the bag for all of this shit. Now, the other one was NFTs. What the fuck is digital art? Get the fuck out of here. All right. I shouldn't. This is where the boomers and their infinite wisdom is correct. Right? They're holding on to property. They're buying gold. They're buying real estate. They're buying all the things you want so you can't fucking have them in this world. So anybody with just a little money, they came along and they said to them, we're going to sell digital art. And if you sit at home, you can have a one-of-one Picasso piece of trash, and everyone on the internet is going to know it's yours. And if you want, you can invite people over to your parents' basement and you can show them your cell phone and they can take a look at your Picasso. But my guess is you're not going to get a lot of ladies like that. Boomers know that because that's why they own the home that you're living in the basement of. It's so simple to see. And crypto, let's get into it because I know a lot of you are going to come at me. No, crypto's the real one. Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever the fuck you're talking about. You have to hold on to a steel man argument, and that is what I have because I'm a motherfucking economist and I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. How long have you been doing it? And I've been thinking about it every fucking day. Is Bitcoin a currency or an asset? Those are two separate things. Do you understand that? Currencies have a stable value. You can utilize them to buy your everyday goods that you need. Repeat transactions. Assets fluctuate in price. Buying and holding, not utilizing it for everyday transactions, not utilizing it for things that you need like you would a currency, are going to appreciate in value if they are scarce, which Bitcoin is. Okay? You need to understand that, especially for this conversation and where it's going. All of the other cryptocurrencies might as well be dick. Bitcoin in and of itself is the only technology, if there is one, because it is ubiquitous system that is decentralized, that anybody can participate in with access to the digital world. So for all you Bitcoin people that are going to come at me, it's important you understand that and you fucking get comfortable with it, because that, my friend, is a fact. And if you're going to continue to say, buy Bitcoin, it's going up in value, then you cannot be the same motherfucker trying to tell me we're going to be using it to buy bread. Because those two things cannot exist at the same time. I look forward to the comments on this one. And then there was GameStop, which, of all the things that were going on at this time, was brilliant. It was the most brilliant of them all, because little did everybody know, around 2020, probably before that, if you polled financial analysts on the street, they were getting most of their stock ideas from the internet, or I shouldn't say most. Yeah, most. More than 50%. More than 50% were utilizing Reddit and Zero Hedge and Seeking Alpha and different groups on the internet for stock information ideas. And because the stock market is a game of buying and selling, what everybody else is doing matters. So some of the smartest people on the internet were on Reddit. Now, I don't know how they figured this out. I don't know whom orchestrated this. There are movies and books that are being written right now that are going to tell you specifically, they are going to name names of who orchestrated this. Be very careful about accepting narratives. We haven't had enough time go by and sifted through enough of the rubble to know exactly what happened at that moment. But what was executed was a short squeeze. Now, what is a short squeeze? There are two types of pressure on a stock. There's buying pressure and selling pressure. And there's two types of ways you can leverage your interest in either. That is placing options, bets on a stock to a leveraged bet on a stock to go up over time, or a leveraged bet on a stock to go down over time. Don't worry about the vernacular of puts and calls and all this. Just remember that we're gambling on stocks to go up or down, and we are leveraging that. Okay? Leverage is a financial way to leverage is a fucking engineering and finance term, right? To lift or to create a wedge, to exert more force on something than you would naturally be able to do, is to utilize leverage. That is what they are doing in the financial market by using options. Forget about all the terminology. You understand leverage if you've ever opened a fucking can of paint or a jar or whatever. Oh man, I'm really fucking drilling down. Give me a little Zinski for this. This is getting crazy. All right. Now, in order to create leverage and bet on a stock to go down, you need to borrow it from somebody else that already owns it. Because the way that this little financial trick works is you borrow somebody else's stock, you sell it, you wait for the price to go down, you buy it back, and then you return the share to them, and you keep the difference in price. Okay? So you sold it for 40. You borrowed somebody else's share. You sold it for 40. The price went down. You bought it back for 20, and you return the share to your friend, only having spent $20 on it. You kept that profit margin of 20%. This is important because apparently GameStop stock was short sold by hundreds of a percent. Now, how is that possible? If there are 100 shares, how could somebody have borrowed 200 shares and sold them already? They couldn't have, right? So there's a shit ton of people betting on this stock to go down. So all we have to do is buy the shares and hold them, because they have bet that this stock is going to go down using leverage in a specific window in an attempt to crush this company, GameStop, at the time. So Reddit got together and said, this is what private equity and Wall Street does all the time. They did it with Sears. They've done it with dozens of other companies. And they're about to do it again with GameStop, a stock that we particularly, for whatever reason, we like. Whatever. We understand that it represents something to somebody, and I don't know who or what. But there were enough people on the internet that shared that sentiment. and that bought that stock. So what had to happen? All of these shorts, Melvin Capital, okay, they needed to start borrowing money because they had these open short positions betting on the stock to go down. But what was happening on the stock market? Everybody and their brother, fresh with a cash infusion from Uncle Sam, direct deposit into their bank account, said, I'm going to take a gamble on GameStop, and we're all going to get in this together. And they are going to have to buy our shares to close out their short positions. And because a stock can only go from 40 to 0 in terms of going down, but that same stock can go from 0 to a bajillion, we can make a bajillion dollars. We are capped by infinity. It can continue to go up exponentially because if we don't sell, they can't buy our shares. It was the perfect crime. All right. And it's not a crime. I don't even know why I said that. It's not a crime. It's important you know that it's not a crime. This is what Wall Street does all the time. They make bets and they make money on crushing companies. And other times, other firms realize that they're trying to crush these stocks and they squeeze the short. It's no different than running a pick and roll in basketball. You got a play that you run and there's a defense against it. We're going to switch men, right? That is how this works. It's just working in finance. So everybody got together and they're trying to squeeze this short. And it went up. And it went up like crazy. And it went up to like 450 fucking bucks. And isn't that fucking insane? A stock that's worth nothing, that has a business that is defunct more or less, because there are other marketplaces you can buy games over the internet. You don't need these retail locations, is now through the moon. And that's real money. That's real money. So now these short positions that these companies have, these private equities, hedge funds that were betting on GameStop to fail, now need the public market that have purchased the shares that they need to now buy back at a lower price to make money, instead have gone up in value several thousands of times what they were worth, which means all of those hedge funds and private equity companies should go bust. But that's not what happened, though. Did you see the end of the movie? Have you read the book yet? They didn't go bust. They didn't go bust at all. Because Vlad Tenev at Robinhood, being the application that most of the order flow, the buying of GameStop stock, was flowing through, as well as other brokerages, needed to do something. So what did they do? They stopped the ability to buy the stock. Insane, right? Because there was pressure exerted on that company from the financial marketplace by the big players that control Wall Street. They put pressure on that Robinhood, Vlad Tenev CEO, by raising his capital requirements overnight. Now, that was just what they did. It had never been done before. The regulatory body saw fit to do that, seemingly to send a message. And it would appear that that message was received. Turn off the buy button for GameStop. That would allow the buying and selling pressure, because nobody could buy, only people could sell. Now, anybody that made money, now's your time to cash out. And if you sell those stocks, the price is going to come down because there's only selling pressure on the stock because you're not allowed to buy. That seems like a rigged game, isn't it? That's exactly what happened. And seemingly, these hedge funds and private equity companies would like for you to believe that they got out of those short positions. But now we're in 2024, motherfucker. Are you all caught up yet, guys? I know that was we're 25 minutes into this, and I've really only been talking about GameStop. And we made a couple of stops along the way for you to understand what the financial marketplace, the landscape was at that time. Because we're in a different landscape now, motherfucker. And they're trying to get this thing to rally again. And I don't want anybody to get caught in this bullshit. The first time it may have been a trick. It may have been not a trick. It may have been a play pulled like a pick and roll by the public sector collectively getting together in a time of collaboration that was unique to any other time. It also may have been a manipulation. Nobody knows who Roaring Kitty is, who, or any of these other GameStop Redditors, and who they may or may not be working for. What I'm trying to say is, just because you saw the play begin doesn't mean that it's over. That's what Bill Belichick was so good at. He would run a lot of plays in the beginning of a game, sometimes so that it would open up the field so that they would have an opportunity in one moment towards the end of the game to do something they had never done before, right? And it took all of that effort at the beginning to open up the opportunity to do something much bigger. Now, if I was working for somebody who was trying to crash the entire global United States economy, right? I would keep shining a flashlight on GameStop. I'd make a movie about it. I'd write a book about it. But I wouldn't allow it to go softly into the night like many other current events and financial events have, 9/11 being one of them. Because GameStop was unique because of that short position. How'd you get 200% short position on GameStop? That is literally impossible because it would mean you would have had to borrow and sold all the fucking shares. Who'd you borrow them from? Which means those were naked shorts, right? Which means these firms weren't really borrowing those shares and they were selling them. Which means they don't necessarily hold those positions. This is game theory, what we're doing right now. We went back and we examined some of the landscape and where it was sitting. Now we're examining the marketplace today, and we're seeing what possibilities, by connecting the dots that we understand and are aware of what could potentially be going on in the future. There is a possibility that Roaring Kitty is a unique individual. He was able to garner the attention of most of the influential financial minds on Reddit during a unique time in history. And he was able to execute a short squeeze through the public sector on the private sector that had never been seen in real time. That would be an impressive feat for one man to accomplish. It would be impressive if he did it by accident. It would be even more impressive if he tried to do it again. If he is successful in doing it again, I would have less faith that he executed it successfully alone the first time. Do you understand what I'm saying here, guys? Because I haven't checked in on GameStop yet. So let's take a look. I saw that it was up 85% one day. I saw that it was down 18% the next day. Let's see where we're at. Today's May 16th. Do I not have? I have GameStop. It's down another 21%. Seemingly, it was a flash in the pan for 1 week, not even. Now, that presents a different scenario. Somebody made a lot of money in a short time. Now, if I were a detective and I wanted to know Who knew that this was going to pop 80% in that short time before it receded back to around 31.12 that it's trading at right now at 1:34 p.m. on May 16th, 2024? I would look at the options contracts. I would look at options contracts over the past 2 years. And what I would do is I would see the volume of those contracts. If there were only 100 contracts traded on average every day over the past year, and then all of a sudden there was a spike in the expiration dates pertaining to the spike in that stock increase, then I would figure out who executed those trades. Then I would figure out if that person's tied to Roaring Kitty. And then I would figure out who is manipulating the stock market. That is one bump that for some reason the universe is telling us not to forget about. I don't know why yet. I don't know if it's rooted in this deep conspiracy theory of the deep state. I don't know if there's some Eddie Huang out there or Teddy Huang just trying to make a bajillion dollars running another pick and roll. But I do know that there's a lot more to this story that hasn't been revealed yet. And I'm so excited to just let it play out. Oh, man. Because time is interesting. Time and space. That is the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. So does that make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? That was what happened back in the day with GameStop was a short squeeze. We don't know who executed it and why. We don't know if it was a conceited effort between a group of individuals who colluded. We don't know if it was a phenomenon of collective consciousness where everybody could see this greater fool's theory playing out with NFTs, with cryptocurrency, with SPACs, and they saw GameStop as a more grounded version of that same greater fool's theory that was more tangible, that they understood, that they could exploit to make money. We still don't know yet because there haven't been enough people still sifting through the dirt and the evidence. It's not going to be me. I can guarantee you that because I don't care enough. I just don't care enough. But I see a lot of people on social media, the internet, and commenting on shows and things like that, that they're very certain it's one thing or the other. These meme stocks that they want to put in a bucket. Don't do that. Don't you put things in a category when each of them are unique in their own right. And maybe did a little more on Melvin Capital and the hedge funds that were involved in that. Maybe look into the order flow of Robinhood and what payment for order flow means, and what a dark pool is, and how trades are executed, because that is the plumbing of the financial sector. If you want to understand how the world works, the world, not the universe, you understand money. If you want to understand money, understand how it flows. If you want to understand how it flows, understand the plumbing of the financial industry. And then all you have to do is put names to the motherfucking pieces of shit that you see running throughout those pipes. And then you figure out exactly how this whole thing is constructed and how the matrix is held up. And it's important that I call it the matrix because at the beginning of this podcast, I told you that I was going to blow your fucking mind with quantum mechanics and quantum physics at the end of it. And it's going to be a little bit of religion and it's going to be a little bit of consciousness. And I was going to use things that you can see in your daily life to confirm exactly what it is that I'm saying to you. And what you are going to feel is this is going to resonate with you at a deeper level than everything that I just said about GameStop, that I did my best to so eloquently explain to you in layman's terms so that your everyday Joe could understand it. I'm going to do the same thing with quantum physics, but it's going to resonate with you on a human level. You're going to understand it in your soul in a way that makes sense to your brain, and you don't understand why. Now, you can pull at that thread on Netflix, and you can pull at that and figure out exactly how the world works. Or you can pull at this thread that I'm going to leave you here in a much shorter time frame explaining the universe, and you will understand how the universe works. What I am doing right now is I am laying out the path for you. Pick your own adventure. Do you want to understand the world, or do you want to understand the universe? And I can't make that decision for you. But in order to explain one to you, I have to explain both to you. So I'm going to continue to explain both to you. And we're going to do it utilizing current events, culture, and consciousness, like I always say. So let's get into this duopoly of space and time. Now, if you think about space as a black and white photograph, time is what gives it the color that makes it so vibrant and brings the portrait to life. That is the intricate web that is weaved between the duality of space-time. We all understand that there was a time before. People want you to believe that there was a big bang. Whether you believe that or not doesn't matter. You believe that there was a time before and there is a time after. And those two things are intertwined completely in space-time. Now, each of those two were formerly one, and we exist in the third dimension. So we get to experience that on a human level in a dense form where we can move through space over time and create history. We can give color to matter. Now, because these things were once one, and we live in the third dimension, they were split into the duality of space-time, each with their own holy triad. Even I sound crazy. Now, space was divided into what? Length, width, and height. And time was divided into what? Past, present, and future. And if you take the two holy triads and you intertwine them, that is where we exist in the third dimension. Okay? Does that make sense to you? That is the interconnectedness of space-time. But if you understand that we were all one before, then you understand that past and future are all happening in this moment now that we call the present. And all matter was once all one. So I am you, and you are me. And all of history exists right now in this one moment. All of the power in the universe exists now. So what are you going to do with it? That is quantum physics. That is quantum entanglement. That is the duality. That is yin and yang. That is light and darkness. It is important for you and all of us, which is why I am doing this, for you to understand how those two are so interconnected. Because in 2012, in Switzerland, on July 4th, at the CERN Hadron Collider, we made a cut in that interconnected web of space and time. Okay? How did we do that? We destroyed a particle. I told you this was going to blow your mind. This is how religion, science, philosophy, it's all intertwined together. When we, human civilization, destroyed a particle, we made a ripple effect in time. That was the creation of this new reality that certain people are awakened to and certain people are not awakened to. Because some are living in the past reality before the 2012 split. Now, these two webs are intermingled together right now in the duality that is space-time. Right now, we are in heaven and earth. Right now, we are in two worlds at once. And at some point, these worlds are going to pull apart, almost like a cell dividing. And the only way that we are going to be able to pick which side we are on is through our consciousness, through the holy temple of the Spirit of Christ, which is your brain and your consciousness. What you believe will become your reality. If you are in darkness, it is important to humble yourself before it. Because only getting comfortable in the darkness will allow you to see the light and walk towards that light, whatever that light is. Because everyone right now on this earth is having a crisis of identity because they don't know which reality they should exist in. They have their foot in both. Which one is true self? How do I get to know that? You get to know yourself, motherfucker. It's the hardest thing and the easiest thing that you will ever do. It is facing every one of your fears only to recognize that facing your fears is actually fun. And that will lead you on the path to ascension. And then you get a podcast with 7 listeners. I'm kidding. What you do is you go and you try and explain it to somebody else, right? Because if it touches you and you understand it and has moved you so deeply onto this higher vibration in space-time, seemingly choosing this new path, then all you want to do is show it to everybody else. But you can't. You cannot bring someone into another plane of reality when their existence, their consciousness is so firmly grounded in another plane. They must be open to the idea that another reality exists. And in order to do that, they have to get really comfortable in that shitty reality that is the darkness before the mind can perceive the light. And then it's up to you. Are you guys getting this yet? I'll explain it in whatever terms make sense to you. I'm really fucking good at this shit. Okay? So this is what I have to do. If I was a basketball player, I would go to the basketball court every day and I would shoot hoops. And I would wait for someone to walk by and say, "Hey, motherfucker, you're not that good. Let's play." And then I'd beat that guy. And then I'd go from park to park until everybody recognized I was the best at this shit. But it's not basketball. And I can't do that. It's podcasting. And in podcasting, I think being honest with people has a lot to do with it. And I'm going to try and be fucking humorous too. And I'm going to fuck up along the way. And I'm going to tell you all of the fucking stories about my fuck ups. But you guys have to choose it for yourself. And I'll do my best to dumb it down in whatever context makes sense to you. You want me to use basketball analogies? I'll talk basketball terms. Football, baseball, soccer, Quidditch. I will familiarize myself with whatever vernacular makes you comfortable enough to recognize that the things that I'm saying will resonate with you on a much deeper level if you open yourself up to it. But we're fucking 46 minutes into this. So that's Gamestop, motherfucker. And that's how space-time is so intertwined. E equals MC squared. And the key to this, the key to your happiness, the key to your consciousness, Jesus Christ, if you believe that, is in the temple of God, which is in your own mind. Conquer yourself before you try and conquer anything else. Take back your consciousness from whoever is manipulating it at the time being. Whether it's the television, your job, other humans sucking the energy from you. Take it back and only do things that you choose. And I fucking love you. I love you guys. I'm going to try and help you along the way. But that's it, guys. Happy Thursday. I love you. I'm out.